Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Manahil Rimor Jawwali. I'm student of Rahan School, Karengi campus. Today we have very special guest. Our special guest name is Mr. Andrew. So today, in future of work, we explore the evolving landscape of work and how we can thrive in it. So Andrew, an encourager of potential and expert in helping people love what they do for a living. So, Mr.
Mhm.
Andrew, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. I'm very much looking forward to speaking to you today.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward. So, before moving on questions, can you please introduce yourself for my viewers?
Indeed, yeah. Okay, so my name's Andrew Horder. I'm a mindset coach, and what I love to do for a living is to help people to understand who they are so that they know what it is they want from their work and then how they go about getting that from their work. So in my world, everybody would be very happy in their work and get up ready to go to work every morning with a smile on their face.
Alright, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for the great introduction. So, now let's move on to questions. My first question is on your screen. Can you
Uh-huh.
tell us about your journey and how you become an encourager of potential?
That's a really good question. I think I've always been an encourager of potential, but I didn't realize it until probably about 10 years ago when a very good friend of mine, Dr. Nick Heap, took me through a process where he actually talked to the lady who took me through the process called core process, which is it gives you two words that explain to you what it is that you do when you're doing your best work. And I'd been in corporate. I'd been a key account manager in a corporate company, and I hadn't enjoyed it. And when I left that and set out to do my own work, one of the early things that I did was this core process. And my two words came out as encouraging potential. So, what I do when I'm at my best is I see people's potential and I encourage them to go out there and do the best work that they can do. Um, I went through quite a lot of different versions of my coaching, and now I'm focusing on people who are in jobs who aren't happy in their jobs, and to find out why that is, and do they need to change their job, or is it really that they just don't know how to bring their best self to their work? And if they could bring their best self to their work, they wouldn't need to change jobs because they get back to enjoying their work. See, I believe that nobody ever sets out in the world to not have fun in their work. Nobody takes a job thinking, I'm not going to enjoy this work, so I'm going to go and interview for a job doing work I don't enjoy. That sounds a bit crazy, doesn't it?
All right, sir. That's fascinating answer. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. My next question is for you.
Yeah.
Um, Now you talk a lot about the concept of joyful genius. Can you explain what that meaning and how someone can discover their own joyful genius?
I can indeed. Yeah. So the concept of joyful genius, I describe it as the intersection of three things. The first one is work that you know how to do well. The second one is that someone will pay you to do that work. And the third one, the most important, is that you can enjoy doing it. So I describe that as the three P's, which is the power to do the work well, the profit to be paid for it, and the passion to actually enjoy it. It's very similar to the Japanese concept of ikigai. I don't know if you've come across that concept. Yeah. So for me, Ikigai talks about work that you can do well, work that you can get paid for, work that you can enjoy, and work that the world needs. Now, to me, I don't think you can enjoy work if it's not work that the world needs. So I think those two come together in passion for me. And what you can get paid for is profit, and what you're good at is power. But the concept is very, very similar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So the other
true.
question was how can you find your joyful genius? Well, I think that really comes down to understanding who you are and understanding what you're doing when you're doing your very best work. And that's usually the way I get to that is I encourage people to tell me stories of times when they've really been enjoying their work, when it's been absolutely flowing, when they feel like they're alive and alight, they've done that fantastic piece of work and it just feels good. And actually, it's not only in work that you experience this, but also in your social life, in your community life, because your core process is something that you do in all aspects of your life, and you've always been doing it. And once you know your core process, it's much easier to then align the work that you do with who you are when you're at your best, so you get to deliver your best work. That's a longish answer to the question.
Yeah, that's really insightful answer. Thank you so much, sir, for the great answer. So now let's moving on. Why do you think it's so important for people to love what they do for a living?
Well, I said right earlier on, didn't I, that nobody goes out and deliberately does work that they're not going to enjoy. Because that would be a slightly crazy thing to do, because for most of us, roughly half of our waking hours, so if we're awake 16 hours a day, roughly half of that time is spent either at work or going to or from work. So why would you want, and probably half of the other half is spent doing, things like brushing our teeth and eating our meals. So, a good proportion of the time that we have each day is spent doing work. And can you imagine if you're doing that and you're not enjoying it? You're deliberately putting yourself in a position where more than half of your life is doing things you don't enjoy doing. Now, that is going to make people miserable. And miserable people do not do good work. The more you enjoy your work, the better you're going to be at it. And then there's this wonderful thing called enjoyment performance theory. It's an offshoot of behavioral theory. But what it says is, if you enjoy work, you will do it better. And the reason you'll do it better is because you will seek out opportunities to do more of it. And guess what? Because you enjoy it, you're going to get better at it. And because you enjoy it, because you're better at it, you're going to enjoy it more. And because you enjoy it more, you do more of it. And you see how it goes round that circle. So if people are doing work that they don't enjoy, that circle's going backwards. And they're getting worse at their job because they're not putting in the effort, and they're getting miserable, and they go home and they kick the cat and they have an argument with their family, and everybody ends up more miserable. I prefer the positive circle of people come home from work, they've thoroughly enjoyed their work, they're in a great mood, they love their family, they greet them, and everybody has a happy evening. So that's why it's important. We all achieve more, and there's more joy in the world if people enjoy what they do for a living.
Thank you so much, sir, for the great answer. I completely agree. So now let's move on to the next question. So now for entrepreneurs listening to us, how can they find and leverage their unique talent and the opportunities to create success?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the important thing there is, I'm actually going to challenge that supposition that everyone needs to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody does. There are some people who their best work is done when they don't have to worry about the business. They just have to do the work. So for some people, being in a job is the best thing that they can do. But for a lot of people, and I am one of them, I don't follow rules well. So when I was working in my corporate job, and I always had a boss and I always had somebody I had to do what they told me to do, I tended to get into trouble a lot. And we find this with entrepreneurs. They see things that need to be put right. They see things that need fixing, and they become a nuisance in the organization. And that is the key to where your passion lies and what you're good at lies, because you're good at it and you don't understand why other people can't see that there's a better way to do it. So you become a nuisance in the organization. Well, the things that you're becoming a nuisance about, those are the things where your genius lies. The things that irritate you, the things that you can't understand why other people can't see it. So it seems really easy to you. And yet to somebody else, it's like, how do you do that? That's amazing. And if we can recognize that, where people are saying, you know what, you do that incredibly well. I wish I could do it like that. Ding, that's where my genius lies. Because it seems easy to me, but to other people, it's magic. How do you leverage that? Well, you find the people who need that. When you find the people who are saying, I wish I could do it like you, well, you don't need to. I'll do it for you. Here you go. Here's the product. Here's the service. Here's how much I would like you to pay me for that. Shall we do some business? And that's how a business, an entrepreneurial business based around your genius starts. Understanding what it is that you do incredibly well that other people think is magic, and then you go do that for them. So, I'm very fortunate that what I do particularly well is encouraging potential. In other words, I describe it as messing around inside people's heads. That's a little bit light-hearted, but I do help people understand where their blocks are, what's holding them back from really stepping up and owning their genius. So I'm very fortunate that I get to make a living being nosy about people, being curious and inquisitive, and then through that helping people to realize how they can take their genius out into the world. I love my work. Can you tell?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for the great answer. You are doing so great, and you are your answer is so very wonderful. Thank you so much, sir, for your answer. So, my next question is for you. Speaking of teams, can you explain the concept of flow and how your executives can use it to get most of their teams?
Yeah. So, flow is really where the work that you do it's in your natural genius. So it's something that isn't hard for you to do. You're not having to think about it. It just flows naturally from you. Now, the way you can really work with flow in a team is where you can allow the individuals to each do what they're really good at, but most importantly, to know what they're not good at and to respect the contribution of the people who are good at that thing. And it's very easy for someone who's good at, say, for example, spreadsheets, to say, spreadsheets is very important, and graphic design, the artwork of graphic design, that's just making it pretty. It doesn't matter. But actually, where the product really comes into its own, or the service really comes into its own, is when you've got a fantastic user interface that the graphic designers created and a really effective product that the coder or the spreadsheet designer has made work absolutely perfectly. You put those two things together, and then you have somebody else who's really good at people and somebody else who's really good at the customer service side of it, and all doing the thing that they're good at and respecting each other and valuing the contribution that each of them makes. Now you've got a high performing team that each person is in flow, but so is the team. Because you start with the production, the creation of the product, which is fantastic. You've got a great product, but what's next? Well, next you need to get somebody who can take it out there and promote it out into the market. So great, now we've got a fantastic product and we've got a fantastic marketing, but that falls down if you don't have somebody who will do the customer service part, the delivery of the product properly. So now we've created a fantastic product, we've marketed it and got people buying it, we've delivered what they expected you to deliver, so they're happy. And the final piece of the jigsaw is somebody to check the numbers, because all of that is absolutely no good if it doesn't make a profit and we don't know what to do with the profit that we've made. So you need somebody on the data and finance side of things to make sure that the business is profitable. Put those four cycles, if you like, flows of a business together, with each person working within their own flow, and now you've got a business that has the potential to become unstoppable. So that's flow, and that's how flow works best with teams. Each individual in their own personal flow and knowing where they sit within the team.
All right, that's really great answer, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your great answer. So, for employees, how can understand their core talent lead to more joy and fulfillment in their work?
Well, it's almost self-explanatory. That it almost explains itself, because if you're doing work that you are great at, you will enjoy your work more, because work's easier. And whilst it's nice to have some challenge in your work, we none of us want our work to be too easy, but it needs to be easy enough that we're not constantly concerned about, am I doing this well enough? Is my boss, is my client going to complain about the work that I'm doing? The concept of flow, one of the people who writes about it a lot is a guy who's this fantastic name, but very difficult to pronounce. But it's Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He wrote the book called Flow, and I'll send you the spelling of that later, because it's not that easy to spell. But he writes about flow, and he talks about the balance between the challenge of the work and the skills. And where you've got the right level of skills and the right level of challenge, that's where flow sits. If the work's too easy, so low challenge but high skills, it becomes boring. If the work's too hard, so you've got high challenge but low skills, that work becomes horribly stressful. So you need the right balance between the challenge and the skill, and that allows you to hit flow. And when you know that something that you're doing is easy for you, and you find ways to apply it that are a little bit difficult, that's when you're really in flow. That's when you're in your genius. In my world, anyway.
Yeah, sir, that's really interesting answer. Thank you so much, sir, for your very great answer. So, Now, you will develop tools like the core process and involve talent dynamics. Can you
Yep.
briefly explain this, how they help individuals and team?
Yep, certainly. So core process, and my friend Stuart Kerslake and I have developed it into, we call it core being. As we say, we originally taught it by Dr. Nick Heap. And core process starts with, as I said earlier, telling stories about times when you were brilliant. And then out of that, we develop these two words that help you understand what you're doing when you're at your very best. And then we go from there. That's the what. We then go from there into the why. So what's your core purpose behind that? And for me, that's that taking friction out of the world, making the world a happier place. That's my core purpose. And for me, the word I use to describe that is resonance. And then core practice is when you go into, the how. What do you do on a day-to-day basis to make your core process happen? And for me, that's connecting people to each other, to concepts, to ideas, to work, by talking to people and finding out what they're good at and putting them together with people who need what they're good at. That's how I encourage potential. And then to help with that, I use the Wealth Dynamics, Talent Dynamics profiling tool, which helps people to understand. You remember I talked about that circle, the flow of business from creation, taking it out into people. So in Talent Dynamics or Wealth Dynamics, the creation energy is called dynamo. The people energy is called blaze. The delivery energy is called tempo. And then the data energy is called steel. And by making sure that you have each of those in your team, you can, and understanding what your specific energy is, so where you sit in that team, now you can take your core process and understand how to deliver it more effectively alongside other people's. And if you know somebody else's core process, that helps you to understand how they want to contribute and what will make them happy in their work. Because it's all very well me being happy in my work, but if the rest of the team aren't, then that's going to be a lot harder for me to stay happy. If all of my teammates are happy too, because they're living their core process, they're fulfilling their core purpose, then everybody's going to be a lot more happy, and that team is going to perform so much better. One of the challenges I think we have, as the way work is designed at the moment, is managers need to understand that, because it can be very difficult for somebody to say to their manager, this is my core process, this is my Wealth Dynamics profile, now let me do my best work, please. And that means I don't want to do, or I can't do, I'm not at my best if I'm doing this particular part of the job role that you've specified for me. So what can we do about that? Of course, unfortunately, the modern version of work is, oh, well, if you can't do the job, you'll have to go. And that's just so dangerous and wrong. That's why I love to see what you're doing there at the school, creating that entrepreneurial atmosphere that means that people don't have to say that. They do recognize each other's values and the value and contribution that you can each make, so that you don't end up in those stupid conversations.
Yeah, sir, you are absolutely right. Thank you so much sir, for your answer. So, what's your philosophy on making business and work easier and more joyful?
It's difficult to describe what my philosophy on it is. My philosophy is we're all supposed to have fun in whatever we do in life. That our purpose, I think, is to add to the happiness and joy in the world. And we do that by fixing problems, but we also do that by making things better. and having fun whilst doing it. If we can have fun, then all those around us can have fun. I often talk about what I call joy stealers. And they are the people who they've ended up, without really planning it, in a job where they don't enjoy the work. And I think that every single job, and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a street sweeper or, a brain surgeon, every job has somebody who can find joy in doing that work. I still remember that in the town where I grew up, there was one of the guys who worked for the council on the bin lorries, on the refuse lorries. And Charlie was the happiest guy in town. Everybody knew Charlie. And one day somebody said to him, you're a bin man. Why are you so happy? He said, I get to take away all people's rubbish and keep the town clean. Who wouldn't be happy doing that work? And I was like, okay, that's a good reason. So I think, if every job's got someone who can do it with joy, if you're doing a job that doesn't bring you joy, you're getting in the way of the person who could be doing the job with joy. You're stealing their joy. So that's why I say, don't be a joy stealer. If you're not enjoying your work, find out why, understand what would need to change so that you can enjoy your work, and then have a conversation about how you make that change. And that might be a complete change of career, in which case, go talk to a career coach. It might be you need to change your job, in which case, go talk to a recruiter and find what other jobs are available in your industry or your profession. Or it might simply be you need to change the job itself internally, which means you need to have a conversation with your boss. And if you have the right tools, if you really understand what it is you need from your work, then you can have that conversation from a place of not, I hate this job, make it better, but here are some things that I'm not enjoying about my work. Now, what can we do about those, boss? Because if I'm happier in my work, we're going to produce more as a team. Can we sit down and talk about that? And the modern bosses will hopefully take that on board and understand that having happy people working for them in their team is far better for them than having miserable people. One or two of the more old-fashioned bosses might well say, well, if you're not happy, go. And that probably is the right answer. If your boss isn't concerned about how happy you are in your work, it's probably not the best place to stay working. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, sir, for those words and for those inspiring words. And I found you in this answer. You have more skill. You have lots of skill, but you have a hidden skill to voice change. When you are saying story a person, so you are like when you are saying story, so you are changing your voice. So you have a skill to voice changing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I love telling stories. Stories is actually one of my favorite ways to get people to understand concepts. I have so many stories. I'm an old man now. Well, I'm not old, but I'm 64 this year, so I've been around a while, and over that time I've picked up a lot of stories that I can use to provide examples of how things can work better. And that's now, as I approach retirement, that's what I'm looking to achieve. I'm looking to achieve a situation where everyone in the world has work that they enjoy doing. That would be that I'd be done if that could be the case.
Great, sir. Keep up the good work. And to our listener, thank you for joining us today. If you enjoy episode, please share it with someone who could benefit from Mr. Andrew Wisdom. Don't forget to subscribe my channel and my social media platform, and don't forget to subscribe, follow him on his LinkedIn, connect with him and learn from him. He have lots of stories, so uh, go and learn with him. And
Yeah,
thank you
give,
so
give me
much,
give me a
sir.
chance to tell more stories. Yay!
Yeah, it's been pleasure to having you on Future of Work. Your insights are incredibly valuable for anyone looking to find joy and success in their work. Before we wrap up, do you have any final thought or advice for our listener?
I think the one thing is,
But you
if,
give lots of lots of very inspiring messages. But before we wrap, you have any words?
I think the one thing is, remember, if you're not enjoying your work, you're not doing well at it, and you deserve to enjoy your work.
Thank you so much, sir, for your inspiring words. Bye. Have a wonderful day ahead.